We are sitting here, obviously in front of Red Robin. This is the first episode of the podcast. We're revamping, rebranding, and I kind of want to add some more intimate, cinematic aspects to it. But nonetheless, we are here. I for anyone of you who don't know, which would be all of you, like Red Robin is my favorite restaurant. I just walked in there, ate food by myself. I was having a blast. A lot of people look at me though, a lot weirdly. I don't think everyone's used to like solo dolos when you walk into restaurants, but like anyone who's out there trying to practice, self care, and not in a way that like you're overdoing it, but in the sense of like you're genuinely caring for yourself. Whether it's going out by yourself, whether it's going to the movies by yourself, whether it's creating by yourself, expressing emotions by yourself, sadness, whatever the case may be, being the safety that you want to see in others is very important when it comes to your self-care. And so that's what I was self-reflecting and like staring at this Red Robin line, staring at this Red Robin sign like really reminded me of like I don't know, like cinematic films or like cinematic shots with the rain in the background. I'm not gonna lie, it's hard, but it also gave me like moments to self reflect. I'm redoing my podcast because I realized that I wasn't consistent nor disciplined, nor was I able to do the things that I wanted to do and express creatively the narrative I wanted to have. And I feel like this is the way to put the power back in my hands. It's like, okay, we didn't do it right the first time. Let's do it right now. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm inspired at the same time. If it wasn't for I don't have the hoodie on, but if it wasn't for that You Matter hoodie that Demetrius Harmon gave me, like this podcast probably wouldn't have happened. Well, this rendition of the podcast probably wouldn't have happened. I think a lot of people our age, I'm 24. Everyone's really, 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 really pent up on so much success in like an unhealthy amount at that. Everyone wants to make a certain amount, wear a certain type of clothes, look a certain way. It's like a ego pride driven world. It feels like a Shark Tank whenever like you're just out in public just enjoying peace. You can't even enjoy that. Everyone's trying to one up the pain that they've been through. And you know what it made me think about? Like self reflecting in Red Robin. It made me think about like that Tyler the Creator song where they were like, do I look like him? And he's talking about his father. And I think that like for all of us at the ages that we're at, we all do look like our parents. And in ways that we want to and other ways that we don't want to. I think about for me, when I look at myself in the mirror, I remind myself of the man who gave birth to me every day. Whether somebody else says I look like him or not, that's all I got when I came into this world. You came into this world with two parents, whether they were physically there or not. You came into this world with two parents, and their choices and appearance reflect off of you. And I think a lot of people try so hard not to be their parents that that's when they end up being the most like them. And it's a vicious cycle. You got to accept who you came into this world as. You got to accept who your parents are. You got to take responsibility for who you are. You got to take responsibility for what you've been through. You got to take responsibility for the people who you will come into contact with. That Sonder feeling. You are the main character in your own story, but you were just a background extra in somebody else's. Don't uproot the story so you can be the main character in somebody else's story. Remain the main character in your own story. No matter what somebody did, hold them accountable, express how you want to feel, but understand that it should not remove you from the point of view that you have in your story. No matter what somebody does to me, I should remain the main character in my own story. No matter like what I've dealt with in the past, I need to remain the main character in my story. And for the people that you end up loving later down the line, you got to be able to make them your secondary main characters in your story. And how can you do that if you're not the main character in your own story? You got to manage that. We all do. And there comes a certain point in time where you have to question like the brutality of our youth. You know, whether it be like everyone thinking our brains not developed to make the proper decisions, or we're young, forget it, why not? Let's just do it. And it's like both extremes are bad. Where's the happy medium? There's so much expectations and yet lack thereof at the same time that it just creates, I believe, to be a dysfunction amongst us. And I'm not even exclusive from it. You know, I see dysfunction in my life in other ways because of my age, because of my youth, because of decisions I've made in the past, thinking I'm young, thinking you can outrun the shadow of somebody that you don't necessarily need to. We always got to keep that in mind. It's so much easier to say that you're unbothered. It's so much easier to say if they wanted to, they would. It's so much easier to say so many things of absolutes, but it's somewhat ignorant in a sense to think that everyone around you is going to treat you like the main character. It's not their job to. Expect everyone to treat you the way that they've always shown you. When you look back at who you used to be, don't don't think about, wow, I look like him. Get to a place where you can be proud of who you look like in the mirror. And it's not necessarily a destination. The goalpost is always moving in terms of what that self care looks like, what that self love looks like, because your best is always going to be your best. Don't idolize any specific goal. Just be in the moment, you know? That's what God is for. For those of you who share that faith, you know, a lot of us, we lead with ourselves and ask God, why didn't it happen the way it was supposed to? You know? And it's like, what else were we going to do? What else were we really going to do? And I find it so interesting, you know, I make 1,000 mistakes, and no matter what parent you have in your life or what experiences you've had in your life, what people have been in your life, no matter who's been in your life, whether you wanted to be that person or not, whether you wanted to copy some of the things that they do, ultimately we do end up doing it anyway. So what's the best way to move forward? Say you're nothing like them, or the best way to move forward is say I acknowledge where I am like this person. Even if in reality you're nothing like that person, take inventory within yourself to figure out where is it that you feel like you align with this person. And if you genuinely come down to there is nothing at all that makes me feel like this person and I are the same, then you can move forward with that. You lucky. And that's the way to go. We just have to take our self-care seriously. Every day we got to take our self-care seriously. You know, I remember I was watching this TikTok, crazy enough, and the first thing that I remember, this person was talking about what their therapist told them, and it was something that basically like rattled them. Like they were trying to figure out, like, wow, where do I go from here? And the reason where I'm going with this is not a tangent. It's pretty important. When it comes to your self care and how people treat you, the way that you, excuse me, I almost had a burp. The way that you allow people to treat you is also a reflection of your self care. Some people will abandon themselves trying to make sure other people don't abandon them. Some people will abandon themselves trying to make sure that they don't abandon other people. Some people self sabotage themselves because they don't believe that what they have in their life is good enough. And we got to stay away from those. Be aware, take inventory. But back to the quote I was talking about. I don't know how I went on that tangent. That's that crazy ADHD stuff. But this it was a quote about self sabotage, and the reason why I say this is because I think that's something that a lot of us do, in one way or another, whether it be abandoning ourselves or others before they can abandon us. There's so many caveats to it, but the one thing that I really, really, really want y'all to take home with this quote, like just deep breath and like hear what it sounds like, because the way it sounded for me, and I don't even do this as frequently, and yet it still tugged at my heartstrings for what it is. Self sabotage gives you the illusion of control. If you can't control everything else, you control how you burn it down. I'm gonna say it again. No, Dr. Umar, because Dr. Umar like to repeat himself. I'm gonna say it again. Self sabotage gives you the illusion of control. If you can't control everything else, you control how you burn it down. For everyone who thinks that they need to always have control, you don't. And what you end up controlling is how you burn it down. And that can be for anything. That can be fighting against the love that you want to receive. That can be fighting against the dreams that you have for yourself because you're afraid. That can be fighting against, insert anything into that sentence structure. And it could literally apply to your life. It can apply to mine right now. That's why I'm in this car from this Red Robin, because I did self sabotage. But you got to be the needle mover. And I'm not saying I always will be. I just want to be transparent. I am not ever claiming that I've achieved enlightenment. I'm not going to claim that I'm at my perfect self. I'm not going to complain. I mean, not complain. I'm not going to claim that I'm at my best self. I'm just currently where I'm at. Seasons, if you will. We all are in seasons. And as Lauren London says, like I just don't want to miss my mark, you know? Whatever God has in store for me, I want to be right with him, seeing, okay, I see how this works in my life. Okay, I see how you want me to do this. All right, I'm not sure how about this, but I'm listening and I'm patient. I want to be in that season of surrendering. Whether it's easy, whether it's hard, whether it's difficult, whether it's tedious, whether it requires patience, whether it's painful, wherever God is where I would like to be at. Is where I would like to thrive at. But keep that in mind. Keep in mind the people around you as well. And just don't allow the things that you've been through to make you anyone else and who you're supposed to be. Because ultimately, when you look in the mirror, you'll just end up like him. It is what it is.